to think about your money as a marathon instead of a sprint, and how do
Yes.
we build in those fun times or things that bring joy along the way.
I just use that as an excuse my whole life. Well, what? I can't save money. My monthly nut is 4,000 a month. Well, okay, let's dissect that for a second. That's 4 credit cards. That's you didn't pay taxes for 3 years. That's a self-inflicted 4,000, right?
Yeah,
But
50% goes to your fixed, 30% is your fund money, 20% is your savings or debt pay down.
I wouldn't say I have my finger on the pulse of my finances. I'm looking for the pulse. At least I'm looking,
You're
but like
looking,
I'm
that's
not.
good.
Hey, everybody. My guest today is a certified financial planner and the founder and owner of Achieve Financial Partners. She is also an author, speaker, creator of financial tools that empower those rebuilding or refocusing their financial lives. This is going to be a good one because we're going to dive into my financial life. Welcome to the Modern Meeting, Janice Pierce. Janice, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Adam. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So, yeah, before we dive in, I can't ask you, when was your, when did you realize you had a problem with gambling? Because you're not a gambler. So, just give us a background of when you got into this field, why you got into this field, and yeah, just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, I've been a financial planner in finance for most of my career. Actually, started in risk management and insurance, did some portfolio management, financial planning, and then realized that really liked the financial education, financial coaching, and financial counseling areas. So about 5, 6 years ago, I moved more into that, developing content for people and helping people connect their money to meaningful goals is really what I tried to do and change their relationship with money.
Yeah. So, what is if is there a difference between like what you do and what like someone who is like a financial advisor, like someone who deals with like stocks and retirement and stuff? Is it pretty much the same thing?
No, there's a little bit of difference there. I mean, some of it overlaps. Mostly, what I do though is work on the behavior side of things. You know, how do
Okay.
we impact your cash flow? How do we make it efficient? How do we connect that to the goals that you have, the bigger goals that you have? And some financial advisors do that. You know, maybe retirement goals or things like that. Mine is really more about those small steps. How can we create really small steps to get you to some of those larger goals that you're trying to reach?
Right. So essentially a lot of the people that you're working with, they're kind of at ground zero and you're building them back up.
Yeah, or maybe we're not taught any financial education in schools
Right.
typically, and so just helping people understand how does money work,
Yeah.
how to read your credit card statement, how to know what interest rate you're taking out on a loan, all of those kinds of things.
Or you're like me and you had a great teacher your whole life and you just didn't listen to them. My dad.
that, that happens sometimes too.
Oh, he's listening
Uh,
right now and he's shaking his head. He's rolling his eyes. But we'll get there, Dad. I'm gonna figure out if you were right the whole time or if Janice is gonna dispute some of the things you say. But no. So my first question is, what are the most common things that when you meet with someone for the first time and you lay it all out there, what are some of the common threads with people who struggle with their finances?
Common threads that I see a lot of are people maybe just not paying attention. Our lives are so busy, and
Right.
so we don't have that focus time to know where our money's going. So a lot of times people come to work with me, and in the first month we'll find $100 or $200 extra for
Right.
them. It's just things like changing how you spend your money, and that's empowering, and people love that. They're like, "Oh my gosh, now I have $150 extra every month just by canceling the gym membership and the, subscriptions that you didn't know you were paying for," that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest ones. The other one I notice is people don't know how much they're paying on debt. They don't know what their interest rates are. They don't know how much they should be paying.
And speaking of debt, this was one of my questions for later, but because you bring it up, now once again, a lot of these questions I'm going to ask you, people are going to be like, "Wow, no wonder he's a compulsive gambler in recovery. Like, how does he not know this?" But I'm going to assume that there's no stupid questions for the next hour.
Exactly.
but it's basically if you have, 4 or 5 credit cards that you're trying to pay off, is it important to just knock them down the highest interest at a time? Or do you want to pay all of, I mean, obviously you got to pay all of them, but should you be sending a larger amount to that one with the higher interest to get that out of the way and then knock them down one by one? Or should you be kind of just sending, 3 times the minimum if you can to each one every month?
Yeah, that's actually not a stupid question at all. So, um, you
I
know,
may or may not be in that situation. So just no, no, I don't have that many.
the first step again is understanding how much you're paying on each one of the credit cards. And when I help someone build a spending plan, aka a budget, we put the minimums. So we need to understand what is the minimum due on each one of these credit cards. And then we build that into the monthly spending plan so that all the debt stays current. Then the second step would be what you're referring to, debt avalanche or a debt snowball, right? How are we going to pay this off? The avalanche is paying the highest interest debt first and then kind of paying them down from there. The snowball is paying the smallest balance first and then paying them down from there. So mathematically, the avalanche works out slightly better. However, um, I'm more on the side of the debt snowball, paying the smallest one first because it creates momentum.
Interesting. Yeah. No. Yeah, because there's definitely something to that. There's definitely been moments in my life where, like when I first entered recovery, I had 4 or 5 credit cards, like I'm talking about. And yeah, once you cross one of those off the list and that's off your monthly nut and you never have to think about it again, you're right. Mentally, you're like, okay, I can do this.
Yep.
So
It's
that's interesting.
it's about that behavior change, getting that you get that success and you're like, "Oh yeah, I can do this." And then you take the minimum that you were paying on that credit card plus the minimum on the second one and you're creating the momentum to start paying the second one down faster than even
Right.
the first one.
Now, something that you mentioned before this that I want to jump back to is, when you find that extra 100 or $200 a month, like, oh wow, or you have the gym membership that you can knock down from 25 to 10, or you can do the now, I'm not gonna lie to you, as I sit here right now, I think, all right, but what's 25 bucks? What if I eventually want to go back to the gym? 25 bucks. Okay, yeah, times 12. That's 300 bucks. Like over the course of 5 years, ooh, big deal. 1,500 bucks. Tell me why I'm an idiot to think that way.
And you're not at all. But it's how many of those little things add up to be something bigger? I mean, we've all
Right,
heard like the latte story, right? Quit drinking lattes and you'll be rich. That's may or may not be true. But it's about creating the efficiency. Is the gym
mm,
membership really meaningful to you? If it is,
right,
then let's build it in and know what you're paying for. It's all those little leaks that we're trying to plug, right,
right.
in finances so that maybe the gym membership is important to you. Maybe that $300 you want to take a weekend trip or, something like that. So then we can
Mm.
start to match those together and figure out what's really important to you.
Now, have you looked at like the science behind, like the procrastination? Or, I mean, when I tell you that, I mean, there are some things that we're going to uncover today with my finances that it's embarrassing to say out loud. But I mean, I know I'm not alone when I say, I pay 25 bucks a month to Planet Fitness and I haven't set foot in there in 6 months. You know what I mean? Or, I think I have an Amazon Prime account that I pay 15 bucks a month on. I randomly see on my checking account, Apple 8.99, Apple 14.99, Apple 12.99. I don't even know what they are at this point. And
Right.
I say I'm going to investigate it and then I don't. But just
Yeah.
adding up those numbers I just said, that's almost 100 bucks.
Yeah.
So, in your experience, what is this like? Is there? I mean, obviously, there's a it's procrastinating. But is that a product of my years in addiction, where the value of the dollar just went out the window, or is that something you see through all people?
I do see it a lot. I do believe that there's a piece of that that is linked to disordered or problem gambling for
Mm,
sure, right? That's part of it. Um, Part of it too is just not wanting to face what might be uncovered, and
exactly.
that's where working with a financial counselor or financial advisor or coach or whoever can kind of walk through that with you, and that seems to be helpful for a lot of people
Mm,
because once we get it set up, the goal is that you can manage your money in 15 minutes every time you get paid. So it's set up, it's automated. There are a few things you have to pay attention to. You set a meeting with yourself once a week or once every other week or with your partner or spouse and go through it, and then you're done and you can move on.
Yeah. Now, I know that in the past, you've worked for GamFin, which is like a company that specifically helps those struggling with problem gambling with their finances. Um, I just thought it was, it takes a lot of people so long to admit that they have a problem with gambling because it's so taboo. And then guess what? Talking about your
Yeah.
finances is also taboo, and it's also something that's very uncomfortable. So, talk about, the whole, okay, I stopped betting now, but now I gotta really dig into this mountain of destruction I've caused.
Yeah, and that can be a pretty tall mountain to climb, right?
Mm,
Just that feeling of the unknown is a lot of it. Like you don't know what you're going to get into when you start looking at that. So, I mean, and just so you know, like we're all kind of on this journey together. Like you're mentioning the gym membership, I'm in the same boat. Like, oh yeah, I probably should go back to the gym too
right.
that I'm paying for, right? So this
Yeah.
is across the board. This isn't segmented to any one part of the population. Um, so going back to what you said, in my work at GamFin, we found that most people who call the hotline for problem gambling will call and say they have a finance problem. They don't call and say, hey, I have a gambling problem. They say, help me fix my finances. And so it's kind of that tipping point of people realizing that they need help, but maybe they don't realize that they need gambling or problem gambling recovery help yet. They think,
Right.
help me with my finances and I'll get this all smoothed out and then I'll go on my way. But we did find that it was a good entry point for people to come into recovery at times. So if we can help with the finances, reduce some of that anxiety, stress, shame around money, that can really help people get on the road to recovery.
Mm. I mean, those poor people that think it's about the money. I mean, we know
Uh,
it's not about the money. But
it's not
like you
about the
said, it is
money.
it's if it gets them in the door to talk to you guys, you know what I mean? That can definitely
Yeah.
help peel back the onion a little bit.
Yep.
Um, so talk to me about, you know, the value of the dollar and how, there comes a point in our lives as adults where it just kind of gets out of whack. I know as a gambler, once I won a five-figure amount, once I went from like winning $100, $200 to $10,000, in my brain, $100 was essentially like $10. Like
Yeah.
everything was just like cut cut down. And I'm sure it's like, and then it got to the point where I'd have no problem putting $1,000 into a slot machine, but if you wanna go out to dinner and I'm expected to put up 80 bucks, like, 80 bucks, like, can't we just go to the food court, right? So kinda talk about the value of the dollar and just what you've experienced, talking to people about that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest changes that people in recovery start to make, and it takes the longest time, is to
Mm,
reattach value to money. So having, like you're saying, not wanting to pay for going out to dinner, but being able to spend, 10 times or 100 times that amount gambling doesn't seem unreasonable to somebody who's in that. So part of that change comes, of course, in recovery, right? We always say if you're in recovery and you're doing the support with that, meeting in a group, having a counselor, all those recovery needs are met, your finances follow eventually. But starting with the finances, reducing that shame and anxiety about money goes a long ways. And then
mm,
part of what we do is try to help people, or what I would do is try to help find support people. So maybe peer support or family member who can help reset some of that thinking around money. It takes
yeah.
a while though, as you
Oh,
probably
for
know.
sure. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Um, so now when we're talking about budgeting and we're getting close to opening up my books, but one common thing that it just didn't compute for me, both in recovery and out of recovery, especially actually once I got into recovery. And, you learn to appreciate the simple things in life. You learn how to appreciate just feeling okay with being okay and not gambling. And it was really hard for me, especially in the first year where it's like, well, listen, why not spend $500 on concert tickets because I would spend 10 times that at a weekend gambling. So I'm doing a good job. I'm not betting. I deserve this, right? Um, but yet, and I've talked about on the podcast, and in my first year in recovery, I created more debt. More debt. I created debt from concert tickets. I created debt from my midlife crisis sleeve. I created a lot of debt. So how have you found once that person gets into recovery? How do you balance that making the smart financial decisions while also, you know, living a good life and not being, I'm not gonna even today, like I'm not gonna eat ketchup sandwiches until I'm debt free. I'm just not gonna do it because I could get hit by a bus tomorrow, right? So it's like,
Right.
how do you find that balance?
Yeah. Nor should you eat ketchup sandwiches.
I mean, if the bread was toasted, I might like it, but
Maybe a white bread, I don't know.
yeah,
Um, yeah, that's a really great question because one of the things we find is having too much money or too little money are triggers for gambling. And so
mm,
what we try to create is consumption smoothing, which is the fancy word of keeping your expenses and your income aligned so that you're meeting all of these different goals. And one of those goals is to think about your money as a marathon instead of a sprint, and how do we
yes,
build in those fun times or things that bring joy along the way.
mm,
And so, one of the best ways I found for everybody is a percentage spending plan where you divide up your money into three buckets: what you need to live, the fun money, what you get to spend, and then savings if you can. And also, paying down debt, extra on debt counts as savings. So, if you have that mindset of like, okay, how am I going to divide up my paychecks to reach these three? And then you kind of set those parameters for yourself. Still go have fun, but there's a dollar amount attached to that. If
mm.
it's 30% of your take home, then you spend 30% and then you wait till next time.
Oh my God. Everything you just said, my follow-up questions were getting crowded in my brain. Let me try to
Okay, go.
yeah, let me try to organize my thoughts. So first thing, you just said that paying off debt is a form of savings. Explain that a little more.
Yeah, because we look at savings as what you're giving your future self. And so if you're
Yes.
paying down extra on your debt, you're creating space in the future for something else to take that place, right? You have more money. Let's say you pay off that small credit card, you have more money to either pay down more debt, have more fun, go on a vacation, put an emergency fund aside, whatever that next thing is for you.
Yeah. And then what you also said that I mean, I guess I thought of, but it just the way you said it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks where it's like as gamblers, it's either too little money or too much money, right? Like we don't talk about it, especially early on in recovery. I mean, we talk about what it's going to be like once you're debt free, but that seems like miles away. But me closing in, I'm on pace where I'm going to be debt free, knock on wood, in a few months after
Woo!
almost 4 years of recovery.
Wow,
And
congratulations.
thank you, yeah. And,
Yeah.
and so I got to knock on wood like twice there. um, but you're right, where it's like that's like I can't remember the last time, and it may not have ever happened in my life where I was walking around with no debt. I think I've had debt since I was 18 years old. So it's like I've always once I learned the phrase monthly nut, what you owe, I just use that as an excuse my whole life. Well, what? I can't save money. My monthly nut is 4,000 a month. Well, okay, let's dissect that for a second. That's 4 credit cards. That's you didn't pay taxes for 3 years. That's a self-inflicted 4,000, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. So very very yeah. There was a couple of that things I had, but I can't think of now. But so yeah. Let's jump into it. So my first question to you about my finances. And I'm not trying to get a free consultation right now, but I do want to know when someone comes to you for the first time, what what do you like what's day one like? Like how do you set the tone and set the person up?
Yeah, and I'm totally happy with a free consultation, so let's do this.
Okay, cool.
First step is finding out what your goals are. Like where are you today and where do you want to go? Then we can start attaching money to that. So that's a lot of just doing what we're doing now. Let's sit and chat, figure out, you're going to be debt free in 4 months. Wow, that's amazing. Then what? What comes after
Exactly.
that? What's the next thing that you want to accomplish?
Hmm. And so for since I got into recovery, I basically had, I would say, over the course of the 3 years and 9 months I've been in recovery, if you want to average out what I've been making, I don't, I'm just going to say the numbers. I don't care. I think it'll be helpful. I probably averaged like between 80 and 90,000 a year. Okay. Yeah. Get out a piece of paper
I'm
if you
getting
can.
paper. Hang on. We're going to get into
So
this. All right, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, yeah. So I made anywhere between, I'd say, 80 to 90,000 a year. Over those 3 years and 9 months, there was also periods where I was in between jobs. I would say a total of, let's call it 6 months out of those 3 years and 9 months, 6 months where I lived off of the little amount of savings I had and credit cards.
Mhm.
Okay. And my monthly nut, starting when I got out of recovery, and honestly for this whole time, has been anywhere between 3,700 and 4,400. So
Okay.
in your opinion, based on all that information, how much money should I have saved in those 3 years and 9 months?
Well, so your monthly net you're talking about, does that include all of your debt payments? Did you let any debt go to the side?
No, so
That's
that is
everything
all
was
in.
paid?
That includes rent, utilities, and any debt I had. That was, and once again, like there would be some, like my first year in recovery, towards the end, I that number got lower, but I started building up the credit cards to the point where the credit card payments got too high, and then I consolidated my debt into one credit card. Um, but for the most part, the number, I can't remember the last time when I do my, because my dad is really good with money. He took over my finances for the first like 6 months of my recovery. And when we set up a budget, I have something on my phone, a little spreadsheet where all my bills are that I've had since 2022. And like my bills, the lowest they got was like 3,500. And the most they got, like probably like at the end of year one, when the shit hit the fan again, kind of debt wise, it probably got up to like 4,300.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, 80, 90,000, like I was probably taking home, on a good month, like I'm probably maybe taking home like 5,000, between five and I'd say between 4,500 and 5,500.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how much debt have you paid off in that time?
Good amount. Yeah. Like
Okay.
in that time. So like when the dust settled and I faced the music of my tax situation, I owed like $20,000 to the federal government and a couple different states, and now that number's less than 5,000.
Okay.
Um, and what else? I mean, yeah, like I had I had credit card debt that, see, I mean, this is where it gets a little a little shameful. But I want to say, like
You can
when I
give me
got into
round
yeah,
numbers
like when I
if
got
you
into
want.
recovery, I probably had like two credit cards. And then at some point during this, I probably had like four credit cards. And then I
Uh-huh.
went down to like one, and now I have two.
Okay.
Um, but and once again, two that at the end of this year, based on what I'm getting, they're gonna be paid off.
Okay.
But once again, that comes with like setting a budget for myself of like spending money, like gas, food, life, of like $175 a week,
Uh-huh. And how are
which,
you yeah, how are you finding that? Is it
I
sustainable? Does it feel austere? Does it feel
once
like you're
again,
deprived?
it's sustainable if I pretty much say no to anyone asking me to
Everything?
do anything, right?
Okay.
It's just, I mean, if I walk in a market basket, I'm not spending less than $60. but there are days where I spend 110.
Uh-huh.
But once again, on the days I spend 110, if I look at the carriage, it's a lot of processed stuff. It's a lot of
Oh,
right. It's
yep.
if I'm on an Atkins kick, it's the Atkins peanut butter cups. Where if I stay on the outside, if I'm just doing vegetables and meats and fruits, yeah, now I'm spending $60. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just like if I want to go out to dinner, right? And this has been something my whole life, that not my whole life, but I just feel oftentimes working in the restaurant industry, but also just like I just for whatever reason I have friends that have expensive taste when it comes to restaurants. And if I'm going out to eat, them thinking like $100 a head is like cheap. And
Oh.
and I'm like, okay, but like if we were sitting at the table and there was a number on top of our heads of net worth, like I have $178 in my checking account right now, and I'm gonna spend $100. And when I say 178 in my checking account, all my bills are paid, right? And this is in
Right.
recovery. This is in recovery, but that's all I have
Yeah.
to my name, right?
Yeah.
So I've been talking way too much, but so
No, you
my
haven't. This would be the first time
right.
first time we meet. This would be a typical appointment. So, yeah.
But so yeah, so do you have any idea, like, with someone based on everything I just said, like what should I have saved right now after almost 4
Yeah.
years?
Well, actually, I mean, it sounds like you have money saved. If we go back to
Oh, the
paying off
debt for sure.
debt is
Yeah.
future savings, right? You're paying your future
Yeah.
self. So the total amount that you've paid off minus what you would have had to pay if you had just kept it current, just paying the minimums
Right.
is your savings rate, which if it sounds like you've done a great job of paying down taxes, paying off your credit
You hear
cards.
that, Dad? Holy shit, that's funny. I'm
Yes.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Would
um,
he disagree?
this is gonna be new to him for sure.
Okay,
Paying
let's
off
let's
debt
find
is
out.
savings. Janice is a professional. But I'm sorry. Continue.
Well, yeah, because you're earning the interest rate. Let's say that this debt that you had, let's just take the tax debt because it's easy, right?
Mm,
$20,000 in tax debt, you're paying 3 to 5% over 6 years
mm,
that they want it paid back. If you're paying it back in 4, you've just saved yourself 2 years of 5% interest.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So now you can take that money that maybe you were paying towards if you had an installment plan or something with them. Now let's put that to use in a high yield savings account, maybe an index fund,
I started one
right?
last week. Yeah. I started one last week.
There you go. So now you're making 5% for yourself or 4%
Yeah.
or whatever it's paying.
Yeah. It's 4%.
So
Yeah. Um, oh, I just had something. Well, no. So yeah. So what's so like exciting yet a little nerve wracking is come the new year, I have an opportunity, maybe a month after, but if all things go well, all things continue the way they are, I have an opportunity to start saving a good amount of money.
okay.
And but once again, it's like I'm still the guy who struggled for 20 years gambling, right? Like I still have those character defects. I still don't look at finances the way I should. Like you said, a marathon, right? Like my one of my biggest things as a gambler was the instant gratification, right? Like I want to wake up out of debt in 6 months and I want to buy a condo, right?
Yep.
And it's just like whether that's, you know, whether that is going to work out or not, I still have to each week save money and be smart about it and avoid those weekend trips to New York or avoid, I really want that Drake May jersey that's $250 or but see, as I say that, like I do want that I do want that Drake May jersey. And one thing my dad says about the budget, and he's so right, is that because I tell him all the time, I'm like, Dad, here's my password. Go look at my checking account. I'm not spending anything, right?
Mhm.
But I'm not saving anything. So there's something wrong. And if I really look at it, it's like, okay, that 1 week you didn't leave the house. Like you didn't spend any money. But you did though, because you went to Market Basket on Tuesday and spent 110. And then for whatever reason, you went to Walmart on Friday and spent 70. and then you put 50 in your tank for gas, and you stopped at McDonald's twice, so we're already way over
Yeah.
budget, right? And
Right.
so, which is why at the beginning of my recovery, I would take that cash out every week. Every Monday, I'd say,
Mm.
okay, I'm going to take out my 150 for the week, and this is my money. Once it's gone, it's gone. I'm not touching that debit card. So maybe that's something that but who carries cash anymore? You know what I
Yeah, did
mean?
that work for you?
For kinda. I mean, it was definitely it definitely made me realize it, right? Like, it made me realize, and then I'm not gonna lie, like, I've done this as recent as a couple months ago where it's, it's 3 days before payday, and I say, I wanna keep that cushion in my checking account, so I'll just put this Walmart run on a credit card.
Mhm.
And then, what you think is X amount on your credit card, when you go to pay it, you're like, whoa, why is that balance so high? And then
Yeah.
you look at the transactions. Oh, you went to Walmart 3 times, idiot, right? So it's like, I wouldn't say I have my finger on the pulse of my finances. I'm looking for the pulse. At least I'm looking,
You're
but like,
looking,
I'm
that's
not.
good.
I'm looking because I got this guy in my ear all the time, but I'm not, and I'm not to make light of it. I want to be that way. Like, I've waited too long. I'm 42 years old. Like, I need to start, right? Like, I don't want to be working until I'm 80. God willing, I get there. But all right.
Yeah.
I keep talking. I keep talking. But so what do you think?
Well, I mean, you're at a really good point because of having the debt paid off to start saving. And so it's a great time to readjust your budget or to look at how do we build in some of those things that you want to purchase and put some parameters around it. So for
Mm,
example, if we were looking at a percentage spending plan for you, I don't know all of your finances yet because that's usually meeting number two. We dig into
mhm,
all the numbers and you send me lots of documents and I look them over. um, but it would be figure out where you're spending your money now, percentage wise. How much is going to your fixed expenses? How much is going to savings, AKA paying down debt? What
mm,
percentage is that? And how much are you spending on fun money? And so to make things easy, we can divide it up kind of 50%, 30%, 20%. 50% goes to your fixed, 30% is your fun money, 20% is your savings or debt pay down. And
mm,
then or it can be anything. Some people need a 70-20-10. 70% goes to their needs, right? Or if they live in a high cost area or whatever. But somewhere in there, find those percentages and then divide up your money so that each one of those goals gets met. One maybe account pays all of your bills. Maybe you take out your fun money and your flexible money, the money that you put gas in your car, in cash or another debit card, and then auto save for the rest. Which it sounds like, since you're paying down debt, you're kind of doing that piece of it already. And so maybe it's time, once you pay off debt, to shift some of that money that you were paying down into the fun category, increase the fun, or maybe you have to increase what you're spending on groceries. It seems like everybody is these days.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's all great. So would you say, what what is in that category of fixed? Like, credit cards is not fixed, right? Or is
Well,
it?
the debt minimums are fixed. Like
Okay.
what you have to pay on your credit cards or your loans to keep your debt current. We want
Yeah.
that in the fixed, right? The rest of
Mhm.
the fixed would be anything you have to keep your life rolling. Your rent or mortgage, the transportation, getting back and forth to work, gas in your car, whatever that looks like, utilities, cell phone, those kinds of things that mainly the things that don't change a lot, but you have to have.
Mm.
Then the second category, and depends, some people do this differently, but I put the food, fun in another category, and entertainment, shopping, that kind of stuff in that second category because we have control over, especially food, right? Do you eat out every night or do you shop the aisles of your grocery store?
Right.
Decision point. And that's what
Okay.
goes in
So
that one.
yeah. So breaking down the numbers. Now, these aren't my new numbers. I won't say what I'm making now, but let's just say that I'm taking home uh net. Let's say I'm taking home 7,000 a month. Okay. So someone who's taking home 7,000 a month, is there a set number, a smart number that they're fixed category should be? Like, is 50% what it should be for all fixed, or is it less? Is it more?
It depends. So let's say 7,000, but you're a dual income household, right?
Okay.
Or 7,000, but you're 22 years old. So,
Mm,
there's some differences in age, difference in your household, difference in where you live potentially. So I
yeah.
find a lot of people kind of mid income live more in like a 70-20-10 percentage. So
Okay.
70% goes to your fixed, 20% goes to your fund, 10% goes to your savings. Now that works if you're younger, because if you're consistently saving 10% of your money, starting in your 20s or early 30s, you're going to be fine, right? You're putting
Right.
money
Yeah.
aside towards whatever. If you're getting, more midlife, then we want to make sure that more of that money is going into savings and tax advantage accounts, maybe retirement accounts, than and maybe adjusting those percentages if we can.
Yeah. So let's say the person's like 42, bald with a
Oh,
beard.
okay, all right. Hypothetically, I'm seeing this.
so let's let's say I'm taking home 7,000 a month, and you know uh I think that my monthly expenses starting in the new year, they're going to be under 3,000.
Okay.
um and so I was actually talking to my dad about this last night in preparation for this interview. I think that a good compromise right now for me to, and once again, I've had plenty of fun the last 3 years and 9 months. So for me to be like, oh, I don't have any money to, I've had fun, too much fun, probably, considering I don't have any money saved.
Uh,
But I think that the goal is going to be to have a budget of $250 a week, and that's going
for
to be
what is
for that is for not the fixed and not the saving.
okay, the fun money, the
Fun
flexible
money.
fun money, okay,
Flexible fun money, $250 a week. Now, here's a question.
okay,
At the end of the week, if I have a good week and I have $50 left,
yeah,
do you think I should carry that over so I have 300 the next week, or should it go back to 250?
good question, and I'm gonna say it depends. Like,
Ah.
it
Well, let's
depends.
assume me. Let's assume me.
Let's assume
These are
you.
all me now. Yeah, these are all me now.
Um, it I would say it depends on if you have a bigger fun goal that you're saving for. So let's say
Yes.
you have a
Okay.
weekend trip planned, right? Or you have a
Mm,
big vacation coming up, or you want that jersey. I don't know, whatever it is that's
right.
outside the range of that 250, you know?
Hmm.
Then have another account. Start throwing that extra 50 a week in there. When you reach that, you're like, okay, I'm taking the weekend trip. I'm going. Like, let's
Hmm.
do this. That's one way to do it. Other people say, okay, I'm just going to roll it over to the next week and then use it for whatever comes up. So if it's that $100 dinner and you're okay with that, again, it's about having the flexibility and not going over that.
Hmm.
So, let's say that you're always spending 300 a week. That's where we want to kind of cut back and
Right.
say
Right. Right.
we need to do things differently.
And honestly, like, as you're talking, it's like the story of my life, whether I was gambling or not, if I had something planned, it was always just like, well, it's perfect. We leave on the 28th. I get paid on the 26th. So I just use my paycheck for the trip. I mean, saying it now, it's like, but up until a year ago, like, I wouldn't look at that as like, that's what people do, right? No, that's not what people do, because you've known about this trip for a year. And just like you said, even if I just saved $50 a week, $100 a week, that would have paid for the trip.
Yep.
But and so that's what and once again, everybody, I'm still not doing this. Like, I'm not, I've had a good month, good couple months where things are finally starting to get paid off, and things are, but like, I still think this way for sure. But so what is your advice to me there, where, I mean, obviously it's just insane thinking. Like, it's like you can't use you can't rely on your paycheck, even if your paycheck is a good amount of money. Like, whatever you're doing in your life, you still have to apply to, this
Yep.
goes here, this goes there, this goes there, right?
Yep. And
Yeah.
I think the main strategy that works for people is to do it automatically. Like once we set
Yes.
up those categories, it just goes there. Especially for people in recovery, if that happens at the payroll provider level, doesn't even hit your
Mm,
bank account,
right.
that's ideal, right? Because then you don't
Yeah.
even see it. It's not money that you have. Kind of put it aside and, set some parameters around it.
Yeah. Awesome. So, okay. So I got some rapid fire questions for you now,
Okay.
before I let you go. Owning versus renting. Talk to me.
Um, Used to be owning one, like I would say that's changing a little bit. The caveat with that is because a lot of people can't afford to buy right now, right?
Hmm.
The caveat is still that percentage spending or saving. So making sure even if you're renting, you're saving money and either putting it towards purchasing a home, investing it to grow, doing something with it so that you can meet that differential because a lot of equity and wealth is built in real estate still.
Mm. Yeah. Yep. Um, Bankruptcy. So I declared bankruptcy at 28 years old, and newsflash, I did not get to my first GA meeting until I was 38. So even the shame and the guilt and the clean slate of bankruptcy, it it did nothing for me. I stopped gambling for 3 months, and then I got the itch again, and I went back out. Where someone like Brian Hatch, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Brian, um, he declared bankruptcy and he never gambled again after that. And he was kind of spooked from it. So
Mhm.
where do you land? I think we can all agree that bankruptcy is definitely a bailout, but if it worked for Brian, it's got to work for other people. And I don't want to be an advocate for bankruptcy because it didn't work for me, but I'd love to hear what you think about it.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of bankruptcy neutral. I think it's one of the tools in our toolkit that we can use. And yes, it does
Hmm.
work for some people. Majority, unless you've been in recovery a long time, I don't see it working for people because of that reset. People are like,
Yeah,
oh, like okay, I can go do this again. The bigger
sure.
issue on the financial side is it doesn't leave us any tools down the road if there's a relapse. So if somebody there are a lot of things in between or before you file bankruptcy, but once you file bankruptcy, it's kind of the nuclear option for your finances. There's not
Mm,
really a lot of places to go after that. So we want to make sure that somebody's pretty stable in recovery before we look at the bankruptcy option.
yeah. What's more important, having money saved? Because here's another thing, right? That I'm, and this is, I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm sure some people out there are doing this right now. Paying the minimum on their credit cards, but sending a good amount to their 401k or to their Roth. But because they're only paying the minimum on their credit cards, their credit score is shitty. But
Mhm.
they're saving money. Is that a decent strategy, or is it all about the credit score?
There are kind of a few things tangled up there, so
Yeah,
I'll
yeah, yeah.
untangle them a
Let's
bit.
untangle.
Let's
Yeah.
untangle them. So, contributing to the retirement account depends on the tax advantage that they may or may not need. So, this is pretty individualized. I'll give you some generalities, but um, if a person needs the tax advantage, then yes, and then we create a debt pay down plan for them with that. For most people, what happens is without focusing on just one thing, um, this all gets kind of muddled. So, making a
Mm,
clear and precise plan about how to pay down the debt, then how does that intersect with your retirement contributions is really what we need to look at. So, for some people, especially younger people, it may make sense to forego contributing to their retirement account to get the debt cleaned up, right?
mm,
Older people, maybe not so much if they're closer to retirement or if they're high earners, we may need that tax advantage while we're paying down debt. Um,
right.
so then with the credit score, that's kind of a different question or different thing that happens. So a lot of times, especially you may have noticed as you're paying down debt, if you're closing your cards, your credit score is kind of maybe like up and down or whatever before it comes back up. And I let all my clients know that this is probably what's going to happen. Like it is going to go down and then it's going to come back up, but it heals over time. And so what we really
Mm,
want to do is create a healthy spending plan, healthy debt pay down plan, and then your credit score will reflect those and it will become healthy over time.
yeah. Amazing. All right. Last couple questions.
Sure.
Based on everything that you know about my finances, and feel free to ask any follow-ups to give you a better idea of how you're gonna answer this. What should be my percentages moving forward? Let's say starting first of the year. Once my debt is cleared, what would you say based on roughly, taking home like 7,000 maybe,
Yeah.
and, let's say my monthly expenses are around 3,000. What what should I do? What should the percentages be?
Okay, so I do have a couple follow-up questions.
Yes, yes,
All right.
please.
What goals do you have in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years?
Okay. Once again, the first thing popped in my head as you said that is I want to own something.
Okay.
Now I'm ready to I mean, I love where I live, but I mean, I'm looking at these $300,000 5-bedroom houses in certain parts of the country that, the Clevelands and the Charlottes of the world. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm really thinking about that might be what I do because
Mhm.
it's so hard to justify like getting an 800 square foot condo for 500,000 in the Northeast.
All right.
But definitely a goal of mine is for sure to own something.
Okay.
I think also building up. So I opened up a Roth. I've had like 5 Roths, not 5, but I've had 3 or 4 Roths in my life going back to when I was 20, and I destroyed them all, from gambling. Had a million 401ks, destroyed them all. All I have now is I have a Roth and I have a high yield savings. So obviously just I wanna send as much to those or as much to the Roth as possible. I think that makes the most sense maybe. But yeah, just I want to be able to own something. I want to be able to not exhale, but it's at least say like, okay, I'm on the right track.
Yep.
Where for the longest time, up until this point in my life, I've just been living paycheck to paycheck and just, could just blew up every type of savings or retirement I ever had.
Okay. Well, those sound like really great goals to have. And if you have the flexibility to, move and buy the real estate that you want and all of that, that's really even a bonus to that.
Yeah.
Also,
Well,
the
that's the other.
yeah, go
Not to
ahead.
cut you off. The other
No, go
thing
ahead.
I would totally do is like I've always had the idea of, like, buying a multifamily and, like, renting out
Oh,
2 out of the 3 units, and I would be like, I would definitely wanna do that or Airbnb or something like that, but, gotta crawl before you walk.
actually might be a great way to do that to do it because that could
Yeah,
pay
yeah,
for it. So let me
yeah,
ask you another follow up question.
yes.
Eh, do you own a business? So is your what you're doing with your podcast and all of that underneath a business structure?
No, not yet. I mean,
Uh,
I get little trickles of stuff, but nothing yet. But, I mean, that's definitely that's another goal for sure.
Okay. The
Yeah.
only the only reason I bring that up is as a business owner, you would have higher amounts that you could contribute to your own retirement
Mm,
outside of the Roth. So you could do a solo 401k, meaning for a solo business owner, and contribute as much money as you earn into that. So
and
it could,
that's tax-free, right?
yeah.
Ah,
So
okay. So we gotta make this thing an LLC.
potentially. So see,
Yeah,
these are
okay,
these are
okay.
things that some
Yeah,
structures that we could build in. But
yeah,
going back to your
okay.
question about what percentages for you. Um, so goals, got that. Then the other thing, so you're saying that after the first of the year, sounds like your fixed expenses are going to be about 42% of what.
Yeah, yep, yes.
Okay. So that means, if we're looking at a 50-30-20 plan, for example, which is really a healthy plan, you could potentially, if you could purchase with that and keep your percentages somewhere between 50 and 55% for your housing and fixed expenses, all the things that go into that.
Mm,
That would be then your 20% savings and then using the rest for that fund money. That might be a great strategy for you. You'll reach your goal of owning property and be able to increase your spending or your savings amount, have a healthy savings, or maybe decrease your savings and have more fun money. But you're building real estate, which is an asset on one side, and you're saving on the other side.
Right. And so roughly like 20%, so 1,400 a month over the course of a year. We're looking at, and see, once again, this is my addict brain, this is my instant gratification. My brain just went to the place of, I'm gonna save 1,400 bucks a month, and at the end of a year, I'm not even gonna be able to put a down payment on a house. Like, I gotta wait another year, but that's what people do, right? Like, it can't happen overnight.
Well, yes and no. I mean, if you've never owned real estate before, you could potentially qualify for the first time homebuyer program. That's usually 3% down.
Mm,
And so, depending on where you buy, but
right,
that's,
right, right.
they reduce the interest rate. They sometimes reduce the closing costs that you pay. Great way to get
Yeah.
into your first place.
And to an earlier point that you made as far as, like, the snowball effect, you know, there's been not many points in my life, but there's been a couple points in my life, 1 or 2 when I was very young, I think, where I would, like, notice, like, "Hey, you got some money saved, like, let's keep this rolling." You know what I mean? So it's like, I think once I get going, maybe there's a 3-month stretch where, yeah, I just barrel down and I don't do anything, and I save even more money. I save 30%, 40%.
Yeah.
But okay. Yeah,
Potentially, yeah, and then have that savings earmarked for something. Usually, what I suggest people do is have your rainy day fund somewhere that you're going to draw from. So, let's say,
right,
I don't know, car breaks down, whatever happens, and you need
right.
some money, you take it out of that one. If you're saving for a house, specifically have a house savings account. And some banks now will divide this up where you have one savings account, but you can put it into different sleeves if you want, all in one, so you can
Mm,
see it, but it still sits in one account. If not, put it in separate accounts. And for people in recovery, it's pretty important to have some safeguards around that. Maybe somebody
yeah,
else holds onto that savings account for you, or
right.
for somebody. If you have somebody that you trust in your life, or put dual signatures on a savings account, or I don't know, some people will open a savings account that they have to drive to at a brick and mortar bank that's like 100 miles away, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it takes
Right, right,
to keep that
right.
money out of your hands.
Yeah. Alright, last question.
Yeah.
This has been amazing. This has exceeded my expectations, and I had high expectations going into this. I hope you enjoyed this. I think this
Oh,
is
you did?
awesome.
Yeah, immensely, immensely.
So explain to me and the modern meeting audience, like we're 5 years old, and talk to us about credit cards.
Ah, credit cards.
Tell
Okay.
us tell us everything. Pros, cons, like we're aliens that just landed on Earth, and we're asking, "What's this plastic thing?"
Okay. Uh, Credit card is a way to borrow money that you have to pay back, and if you pay it back in a certain amount of time, they don't charge you any extra money on that. However, that time frame varies from 0. Some credit cards charge you interest immediately, the day after you charge something or purchase something, all the way to like 28 days. You have 28 days to pay it back and they won't charge you anything. They're a little tricky because it's one way that is easy to overspend because it's not money that's coming out of your account. And as humans, our brains are wired to not really see it as money. So, um, we're not, so that can be a danger to having the credit cards. The other part about credit cards is banks are pretty wily when it comes to hiding the fees, hiding how much you're paying, hiding if they have an annual fee, like all of those things. So I always recommend, if you're getting a credit card, obviously read the fine print, but they have what's called a Schumer box on every credit card statement now that they have to put, that tells you what your interest rate is. If you take out a cash advance, we'll talk about that in a second, what that interest rate is, and if you're paying an annual fee. So they have to tell you all of that. The main thing with credit cards is um, they can be useful because they can help you build your credit, improve your credit. There are other ways to do that now, so it's not as important as it used to be to have a credit card. But use it smart. Only have two. I like the way you've done that, Adam, because it reduces the complexity in your finances.
Yeah.
So let me touch on cash advances for a second
Yes.
because this is a big one.
Been there,
So
done that many times.
a lot of people have. So
Oh,
taking cash out on your credit card, they charge you more higher rates of interest, and that usually starts right away. Like they don't give you time to pay that back. And sometimes that payment is buried underneath a purchase payment. So you have to pay off all your
yes.
purchases before you get to paying back the cash advance at the higher interest rate.
Yeah. And so a follow-up question that, we're not aliens or 5-year-olds. So, um, I if you can't I mean, is the cardinal rule just if you cannot pay it off in 28 days, you shouldn't do it, right?
Well, again, it's
Unless
like
it's an
you're
emergency, I
unless it's
mean.
you're I mean, I always put it in this perspective. Keep in mind that you're borrowing from your future self. So,
Ooh,
if you're paying 28% on, clothes or a widget or a spontaneous purchase, is that serving your future self the best way that you want it to? Or would waiting until you get paid and then going buying the widget or the whatever be serving your future self better?
yeah. And obviously, if you can, if you wanna find something that's interest free for 18 months, like I do with like my furniture all the time when I moved 10 times in 6 years, and I would go to Bob's and they would give me a line of credit interest free and I would always pay it off. So that's okay, right?
If you have the discipline to pay it off, what
Right.
the banks are counting on is most people don't. They don't,
Right.
we don't focus and we have short memories. So
Yeah.
by the time that 18 months is over, then it's like, oh yeah, I forgot I have this, furniture credit
Yeah.
card over here that I haven't paid off. So if you do that, take that money, divide it up by 18, right? What you owe, divide it 18, automate that payment so it goes every single month and you don't even think about it.
And the way that they also like I can remember when I was in active addiction and every once in a while, like for whatever reason, whether it was I won or I was just on time with my bills, like my credit would go up. Like when I entered GA February 8th, 2022, I had like a 700 and something credit score. Like it wasn't like a financial rock bottom for me, but like I'll never forget the 2 or 3 times it happened where, I'm in the casino and I go to do a cash advance and I pull up my app on my phone and I see that my balance, my credit limit went from 4,000 to 6,000. I didn't even ask for
Oh,
it. They just gave it to me. And like, oh my God, to someone who's struggling with gambling, like
yeah.
that is just, I mean, I emptied that clip that night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that happened a few times. It was one time I was in the Bellagio when that happened in Vegas. But yeah,
Yeah.
Janice, this has been amazing. Any closing thoughts or anything we didn't cover?
Well, I just want to say, I'm so proud of you for taking the focus and paying down your debt and almost being debt
Thank you.
free. That's amazing.
Thank you.
I know that has taken a lot of work and a lot of, focus and dedication. So
Mm.
kudos to you.
Yeah, thank you, Janice. Where can people find you?
They can email me, Janice at achieve.finance. And if they, want to connect with me, I have an online class as well, but emailing me is probably the easiest way and fastest way to get in touch with me. I'm also on LinkedIn and
Amazing.
Facebook, of course, if people want, want to reach out there.
Amazing. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Janice, thank you so much for being on the Modern Meeting. This was educational. We had a couple laughs. I mean, because we got to keep it light, like if
Right.
we're talking about this, but no,
Yeah.
yeah. Appreciate you so much. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks so much. It's been great being here and chatting with you.
Awesome. All right, we'll be
Thanks,
right
Adam.
back.
Bye bye.